Hey, it's Arroe. Podfest brings together 3 different conversations from musicians to authors, doctors, environmentalists, and cooks in their own kitchen. These are real people with real stories. Podfest 41 features U.S. Navy SEAL Clint Emerson, author of the book 100 Deadly Skills. Then a very up-close conversation with one of the biggest voices from the 1980s, Mr. Colin Hay from Men at Work. Then we'll wrap things up with my 2016 conversation with comedian Erik Griffin. Now, what makes this conversation pretty funny and very rare is that I was using my radio voice on a podcast. I was just making that transition and thought, oh, radio voice, radio guy. Yeah, my God, it was so bad. Podfest 41. We are unplugged and totally uncut with U.S. Navy SEAL Clint Emerson. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your dedication and loyalty to America, sir.
Not a problem. That's easy.
You know, in this day and age, is it easy?
Oh, well, I guess it really depends on where you're at, what you're doing, and what's lurking around the corner.
Lurking around the corner is what your book is about. It's 100 Deadly Skills. You have created a masterpiece of trying to keep peace of mind.
Yes, trying to get people to acquire the knowledge, increase awareness, so that when, bad luck comes their way, they've increased their survivability.
How numb have we become as a nation? And the reason why I bring that up is because my wife and I now are getting into these conversations where we say we're going into a group of people. If we don't make it to the other side, you know that we'll meet somewhere else again. That's not normal conversation, sir.
No, it's not. But it is very vigilant, and at least you're aware of it, and that's kind of the first step. After that, it's, being more preemptive and proactive with your actions so that you don't find yourself in a bad situation just because of a wrong left turn.
One of the things that I'm noticing a lot is, sure, security is higher in buildings, but I can't even walk into a building with something as simple as a Kubotan in my pocket because you don't know what's going to happen inside.
Yeah, you're right. It's especially when you're talking about like these conventions going on. The nice thing about buildings and convention centers is that at least there's perimeter, there's walls, there's guards that are, checking everything. And so you hope that everyone is being vetted properly so that you're not giving up your survival tools, but someone else is getting in with a gun. So there's obviously a give and take there.
One of the things that you talk about inside your book is that you should stay away from the center of where people have gathered. Why is the center point the most dangerous side?
It decreases your visibility to the entire 360 degrees around you. It doesn't allow you to hastily get away from everything. And usually if you find yourself in the middle, by the nature of mobs and crowds, you'll slowly get pushed towards whatever it is they are moving towards, which is the line of conflict. And if that line of conflict is either barricades or law enforcement, it's all the things you don't want to be near.
So it's almost hitting an ocean wave then. I mean, you lose control.
You do to a certain degree, and if it's an emotionally charged crowd and it becomes violent, now you've really put yourself in a bad place.
Your book is about awareness, and it also teaches people, and it's such a great tool. It's almost like a book of reference more than it's just something where people can just sit there and say, all right, I'm prepared now. But you can actually activate what you're talking about inside this book.
Exactly, and you hit it on the head. The idea is have what you're going to do already figured out before you're in it. And that way, all you have to do is act it out. Activate those decisions that you made while stress was low and you had plenty of time. The one thing you don't want to do is make decisions in crisis when you have stress and decreased time.
One of the things that I say, I'm a second-degree black belt, and one of the things that I'm in watching people and being aware of people is that I see a lot of hand-holding taking place. As a Navy SEAL, doesn't hand-holding, if something major were to happen, the woman or the guy would grab the hand and you can't escape, when in reality you should be able to run in separate directions?
Yes, I mean, the goal is to Yeah, to run for sure. Increasing distance from the threat will increase survivability without a doubt. And then knowing that, all right, if you're not going to ever be able to outrun, fragmentation of bullets. So you need to be running towards something that stops bullets and stops fragmentation. And then constantly keeping your eyes on the bad guys, not trying to lose sight of them. Because where there's one, there may be another. And the last thing you want to do is run right into the second one that you didn't identify the first time.
And the dangers are not just guns anymore. I mean, just this morning in France, it's knives. Knives are becoming so... and is it because they're getting it past security?
They're a lot more concealable, and they're easier to obtain. I mean, let's face it, you can go to any supermarché or market around the globe and buy a set of kitchen knives. So I love it when people want to blame the guns, but, these bad guys are now proving, whether it's in Japan or in France, stabbing is just as effective. I mean, Japan last night or yesterday, you had, 19 people stabbed to death. That's the type of kill numbers that you typically get with a gun, not a knife. But it goes to show it's the people that we need to worry about, not so much the weapon they have in their hand.
And is it about eye-to-eye contact, or is it just body language?
I think there's a little bit of everything. You're talking about detecting a bad actor, a bad guy. A projection in demeanor is usually the first set of clues. And if you see something odd or strange, then you should tell someone. But I think we've become so sensitive and worried about hurting someone's feelings or offending someone, we tend to not say anything. And it's time for people to just kind of let go of the, I might hurt their feelings, and just go ahead and go say something, because it could prevent an entire crisis from happening.
Being that Navy SEAL, how did you train your mind, body, and soul to expect the unexpected?
Well, you have to first embrace the element of surprise. So knowing that it's always there and it can always catch you on guard is really the first way to, being ready for it and defending it. Second is, being more of a tactical decision maker. So you're what-ifing things on a regular basis, not to the point where you're paranoid, just to the point where you're prepared and that you at least think about it. And I think that is key that everyone can start utilizing. And, of course, pull your head out of your cell phone.
Yeah. I got to be honest with you, since the Charleston shooting, every Sunday morning, dude, I sit there and watch every single door. I look for movement.
It's a good idea, considering doorways are in the tactical world considered fatal tunnels. You never want to be, you want to know where your exits are, but always keep in mind those exits are also where it's easiest to, shoot people as they file in or out. So you want to get to the exits as quickly as possible. And
then if there is shooting, inside your book, it's duck and cover.
Correct. It's all about the run, hide, fight philosophy. Now has been adopted and supported by, the FBI. That's what they push and put out. But yeah, you've got to be able to run. You've got to be able to hide if you can't run any further. And then if you find yourself in a confined space, be ready to fight, not play possum. These guys I hear about that survive these shootings because they pretend to be dead. Personally, I think it's ridiculous, because that means they're just laying there listening to other people being shot instead of just doing something about it. So get out there. If you find yourself in the middle of a crisis, increase distance. If you can't get behind things that stop bullets, if you can't do that, and you find yourself confined in a bathroom, then fight. Use improvised weapons around you and beat that person to death.
Don't you see your book becoming a valuable tool for these schools of martial arts?
I would hope so. All I want is to influence a little bit of creativity and aggression in the everyday citizen, and for them to be confident enough to know that, just because a guy's got a gun does not mean he has the advantage. He sure as hell, it's scary. You might get stabbed in the leg, you might get shot in the shoulder, but that's better than, ending up dead because you did nothing.
Do you believe in the theory of running like a rabbit? If there are shots being fired, run, and go in any direction, zigzag it?
I believe zigzagging is very effective because it forces the shooter to change elevation and windage at the same time, which makes his shots probably inaccurate. And I think people have to remember these bad guys most of the time tend to be inexperienced people with guns, and they're nervous, and it's their first time to shoot someone. So, you know, we give them a lot of credit because they have a gun, but the reality is you know, they don't know what they're doing, and if they're emotionally or mentally unstable, then that even adds to their inaccuracy and makes them very vulnerable.
I know that everybody is talking about, we've got the Democratic Convention going on now. We've got the Olympics coming up. There's several protests around the country. But, man, it's these shootings are taking place in clubs as well. Is there a safe place?
I've been saying it time and time again. What used to be wrong place at the wrong time is becoming any place at any time. So I think we all need to just be a little more aware. Once again, not driving paranoia, but just pay attention and know that soft targets are definitely a very, you know, or prime for opportunistic predators. So they're not going to go somewhere where there's, you know, where it's fortified security and, you know, cameras everywhere. They're going to go somewhere where there's a crowd of people that have no security, whether it's on the streets of Nice or in a nightclub in Orlando. They're starting to hit these soft targets that have limited security.
Unplugged and totally uncut with Colin Hay.
Trying to take that midnight train, but it's gone and broken down again. Now I'm stuck on empty avenue, trying to get...
What is it about American music where we can't be storytellers like you?
I think that there are great storytellers in American music. I think that was one of the things about growing up in both Scotland and Australia, which I was very, very impressed by, was the fact that in America, all the stories were about American places and told by American writers, whether it's Dylan or Johnny Mitchell or Randy Newman or any great songwriter you mentioned. They're all great storytellers, and I think there is a great heritage of American stories in American music.
Don't cry. Our tears are not enough. Through firestorms and hurricanes, I'm 16 hours on an airplane, 10,000 miles of ocean view, trying to get to you.
It seems like music has gotten into get to the hook, because you know how radio is. If it's not 25 seconds into the hook, then, you know, program directors just kind of go really weird. Does that affect you as a songwriter?
No, I don't really pay attention. I mean, the thing for me is that I had a lot of success with, first of all, our first song, Who Can It Be Now, we learned a lot from the guy who produced our record, Peter McKeon, who was an American guy. And Who Could It Be Now originally was six minutes long, and the hook of the song never came in till halfway through the song when we played it live. But when he produced the record, he said, "Well, that's no good because radio programmers won't play that. They won't listen to it for more than. Has to be something happening within the first 30 seconds." And so he moved the saxophone part to the front of the song, and so it went dum dum ba ba dum dum ba da da. People go, oh, immediately they hear a hook. So we learned a lot from him. So with our first our albums. He was very aware. We weren't really aware because we were very inexperienced, but he was very aware of trying to make the most out of the songs, to make it a pop song, to make it a great song, but also to stand the best possible chance of getting on the radio. That was an important aspect of how he produced the songs.
Charity, I took as mine, I claimed it as my own. I followed my ascending star to far away from home. Well, I was mesmerized by shiny things. Now in frozen time I stand, yeah,
since that time, we made 3 albums. 2 of them were very successful, and I've made 12 albums since then, and none of them have been commercially successful. And I suppose in the back of my mind, I'm not so much thinking about radio, but I'm thinking about how to say more with less, trying to make the most out of a song, which does entail, if there's a memorable hook, you want people to hear it, so you play it in an opportune place, and you also play it on an instrument that's interesting to listen to. I mean, a whole lot of choices like that. But I never really think about radio because, I mean, I haven't been played on the radio for of my new material for many, many years, and so, I mean, I would love to be played on the radio, but I have no control over that. And as soon as I start trying to think, oh well, what are people playing on the radio, or will they trying to tailor my music to that, I'll just go mad, I think, because I always think that there's songs on my records that would sound great on the radio, but they don't get played. So what am I going to do? You can't lose any sleep over it.
Maybe you got lost at the 5 ways, took a wrong turn just like always, or did you just take the long way home? I hear the wind blow through the pine trees, I watch the frozen lights come into view. Stars above, they don't align me.
Acoustic guitar has been a part of your life from the very beginning, hasn't it?
I love the acoustic guitar. Yeah, when I was 14, I started playing acoustic. I feel it's a natural game for me.
Now, on your new album, are there acoustic pieces on it to where people can really connect with that?
There's one or two, but it's mainly an electric record. But there's acoustics all over the record. Yeah, absolutely.
Or did you just take the long way home?
There's an energy about you that really brings people to you, and it draws them into the storyteller type. Are you a storyteller, or are you a songster in the way of, you know exactly how we're going to react?
No, I just try and write the best songs I've got. I mean, when I start to write songs, I just try and write the best songs I have. I don't think, oh, well, this song's a story.
I'd be glad to give back all I've ever owned if I could have seen into the future. If only I had known. Behind these walls of separation, I have learned to live alone, but I want you.
I co-wrote 6 of the songs on the last record with a friend of mine, and he would come round and have a musical idea, and he'd go, listen to this, and he'd play it, and he'd go, I got one line, trying to get to you, that's all I got. And I go, okay, and play it again, keep playing it. He would just keep playing it, and I just wrote out the lyrics, and in 45 minutes we had a song. So you're not thinking, okay, you're not thinking analytically or academically, you're just thinking, okay, what is this? And in a lot of ways you follow the song. You try in a lot of ways. You get some idea, and sometimes a song will dictate to you what it's about. Sometimes it'll take you down a different road, and sometimes you have to just get out of your own way and not be too pedantic or too laborious about it.
It's you I have to find. My back is up against the ropes, only one way I can go, and I want
Yeah, because your songwriting has always reminded me, as I have ink on my fingers because I write. So therefore, it's almost like, are you a writer in that way? And that's the reason why your songs, really, they're ageless.
I write things down, but I also use a computer. I don't care. I do whatever's handy. I'm not that fussed. What I do now is I tend to use my iPhone a lot, and I just record ideas on that, and I have a bunch of ideas. Sometimes lyrical ideas, but a lot of musical ideas, and sometimes you just have a music idea with 1 or 2 lines, and then you get home and try and make sense of it. And the ones that have something, where there's something there, they usually stick, and you usually work on those. But the important thing for me now is to actually record them, because sometimes I'll come up with an idea and I think I'll think, oh, that's good. That is so good that I won't forget that, but I always do. So I never used to when I was in my 20s. I used to remember stuff, you know. But now I don't. Now I just, sometimes I listen to something and I go, I have no memory of coming up with that, you know, but I know I did because there's nobody else in the room.
What do you do in that situation when that happens? Because, I mean, there are times people...
Who did that? I thought it was me.
it's my voice. I guess I did it then.
Yeah, right.
We'll eat, drink, and be merry. Yeah, next year, people wait and see. Where next year, people, you and me. Henry got hit by lightning twice in the head. He stood and walked away. We thought he...
That poor Henry with 2 bolts of lightning, sir.
That's right.
Oh, my goodness.
Walks for miles and miles and no one knows why. The bankmen, they came and wrote things down on paper. We all went outside and just stood around. We were glad when they left. They brought nothing but heartache, and the seed we had planted, it stayed.
When you're recording at home, does that give you the freedom then to you can step in there, or do you have to have, like, I call it the separation between church and state, that I have this amount of time to go in the room, or can you be sitting in the backyard going, I feel it, I got to go now?
Not really. I'm not really one of those people, but I like to have more discipline now than I used to have. But I tend to give yourself a certain amount of time, you know, to do that, and not have the telephone and not be checking emails and stuff like that. If you're writing songs, but a lot of the time I work by myself, so I go downstairs and I just go into the studio, and you have to give yourself permission to fail.
Hey, can't you see just a little bit before you leave? Hey, can't you leave a little taste just for me?
You know, you have to go, okay, I'm going to be here for 4 hours and nothing might happen. But you have to stay there for the 4 hours and you have to play. Sometimes practicing is a good way to take you into a different kind of zone where you start to write more, just by the fact that you're not thinking about writing a song. You're actually just doing something which is quite mechanical,
right?
Like playing a scale or playing a chord that you're not used to, and it'll take you somewhere else. And then all of a sudden you find yourself, maybe coming up with something that you wouldn't ordinarily come up with, because that particular relationship between notes or something takes you into a different area. So, but however you do it, some people write with grooves, and I tried that for a while. Where, because you have so much potential, you have machinery, you have drum machines, you have all kinds of technology that can help you write songs. But I would end up with 40 or 50 ideas and nothing finished. So I try to just not turn the machines on now. If I'm writing something, I just try and finish it before I record it. And then I get people to come up and go, here's a song, and you record something that already is a song, as opposed to going, well, you'll like this once the lyrics are done. Let's record this, this will be great. One day it will be good. Not today, but later on.
Yeah, because that's what Picasso used to do. Picasso would do it a little bit at a time. Come back next week. I'll give you something else. It's like, no, show me now.
Really? Yeah,
Picasso was very protective of his artwork on canvas. He was never done. So, are you ever done with a song?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that, a song exists in very bare, you can write a song and there's nothing on it. Just play it on piano, sing it, and there's the song. It doesn't need anything else. And but then you can orchestrate it, and you can have, you're talking more about the arrangement of a song.
I watched you sleeping as you drifted away. Love's for the keeping, I still hear you say.
Some people keep going with songs because maybe they're not very good, and they think, well, I'm not really sure, I'll put this bit on it because that'll make it better. But you have to tell yourself the truth. You have to go, well, is this good? And sometimes songs sound great on the radio, and I must admit, I'm no expert on this. You'll be a hit song and it'll sound fantastic with with the production of it, and there are great people, really great record producers around these days, and they have particular sound, and they all of a sudden you think, well, that's not much of a song, but you hear it once it's all put together and it sounds fantastic, you know. Yeah. But I tend to have a simple approach, you know, which is just I like to be able to play the song and sing it. You know, there's lots of different ways to do it. That's just what makes me feel comfortable, because most of the time I'm going out and playing, touring by myself. So, you know, you can't start off a song when you're playing it live and going, I'm going to play this tune. It'll be all right, but really, it's much better with other people on it.
Fan the fires of love that burn in our hearts eternally. Our eyes are not enough to see what we know internally. And how
when you're creating your music, especially your new collection of songs, is it the modern way where you invite other musicians to send their tracks to you, or do you get to do the one-on-oneness with the band and stuff when they're in the studio with you?
No, I have my studio, so people come to me.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, they like coming up to the studio. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, because it is about that connection.
I mean, I have done that. I mean, I have sent some stuff to people, and they send me their stuff back. As a guy who, sometimes you do that with strings, or sometimes people go, oh, well, send me the track, and I'll you know, no, nothing wrong with that. But it's the bare bones of the song in terms of the rhythm track. You know, I have people come up and play drums and bass and guitars, and we record it in the studio.
And now we can almost hear it. Sometimes we get near it when time stands still. And I still don't understand it. Never could have planned it. Oh, and where lies the love? And how do we get to there from here?
Where do you think your real artistry is? Is it writing the lyrics? Is it playing the guitar? Or is it the man behind the control board? Are you three different people? Or is it that you hear it up here and you just know how to get there?
Well, having a studio is at first, I mean, I do things mainly not by design, but more by necessity, by circumstance, you know. When I got dropped by MCA Records, as I was saying before, but I wanted to keep making records. But I didn't want to go and try and get a record deal and go into some record company with a 24-year-old A&R guy and go, please give me a record deal, because they wouldn't have given me one. You know, and I never had a record deal for 13 years. So I just did it myself, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to learn how to do this. So I just learned how to be an engineer over a period of years. So it's just necessity, and it's not that I particularly like producing my records, but whenever I start a record, I look around the room and there's nobody else there. So I think, well, I better do it because nobody else here. I would like to work with a record producer, but I don't really have budgets to pay people thousands of dollars to come and produce my songs, you know. But I also do have a fairly good idea of how I want things to sound. So, and I also have very good friends. I can invite a number of people, you know, a small number of people, but a number of people who will come up to the studio and give me very honest opinions about what's going on, you know.
When did
they'll say, what are all these guitars on there for? You know? Get rid of them, you know. I go, well, I like them. And I go, no, you only need one. Get rid of these. And so I end up ditching guitars because my friend told me to, you know. But he knows what he's doing, so you have to sometimes trust people.
But the record's still spinning, going round and round and round. You'll always mean so much to me. Took us further than the eye can see. I know you'll always take me by the hand, and I will wait for you.
I mean, the person that I always think of in terms of over recording was Peter Gabriel. But he would end up with such superlative product that you go, well, that's a great way to do it. You know, he would record and he would, go down different roads, try this road, try down that. And actually, Steely Dan would do that a lot too. Steely Dan were great with they would re-record tracks. They would use this drummer, this different bass player, and they were legendary for that kind of perfection, seeking perfection through using different musicians and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that. If you end up, it's what you want to get at the end. It's important,
Going through the motions, walking round the car. We've traveled many miles, though not so very far. When I check the side view mirror, I think of you, my dear. You're always very close, closer than you appear. And you'd say, are we there yet? As we drive into the sun, we are almost there, my love, my innocent one.
All of your songs sound like they have a life. The time flew so fast in the other room, I felt like that we got to step inside your imagination.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Could you be where we were, looking up at you on that stage sometime and watch you, if you could separate like that?
I mean, no, I have no interest in doing that.
Really?
No.
You're a very fascinating man, though.
No, I'm just, it's fine just doing it. I have no desire to watch myself do it.
It's here, there, and everywhere, always fast and never slow. And you'd say, are we there yet? As we drive into the sun, we are almost there, my love, my innocent one. A picture-perfect moment, a moment we could share. Laughter from the backseat, we're always almost there.
I want to thank you for coming to iHeartRadio.
My pleasure.
Thank
My
you
pleasure.
so much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Unplug and go totally uncut with the best of the best on today's wildly outrageous and socially networked comedy circuit. He's known as Erik Griffin, but for we fans this side of Comedy Central, the TV show Workaholics, dude, it's Montez.
It's great being a workaholic.
Television producers and actual movie producers are starting to rely on the real writers and the real stars, which is you. How does that make you feel that this turn of events is starting to happen?
Well, I think it's great. It's completely awesome. And, the comedians are finally getting a chance to show what they can do other than on stage. But we have to do our part, too. We have to go to acting class, and you have to be prepared. And, the fact that Hollywood is now understanding that comedians are the ones that can do these things, it's great, because I think after what happened at the Oscars with James Franco and Anne Hathaway, like how horrible they were as a host, I think that they said, oh, you know what, actually we should get comedians for things like this. And I think it's translating over to other areas of entertainment.
Speaking of the Oscars, it seems like a lot of people are turning it down for next year. If the opportunity came to you, would you say, all right?
Somebody would be making a crazy decision, and I would jump all over it.
Would you look at, like Comedy Central being on cable TV and everything, is that the YouTube of television, do you think?
It's not that they break the rules, it's just that when there's comedy involved, people think that it's going to be something crass or something inappropriate. But if you look at cable, FX and Stars and a bunch of other little smaller cable channels, they do some pretty risque stuff right on TV.
Do you ever get to see the research of who's DVRing you?
You know what? I have no idea. You would think they would know that, because I remember when Janet Jackson's boob popped out, they had a stat, the most DVR'd moment. So if they can have a stat like that, then that means they can keep track.
Now in radio, we're always looking for hits and stuff on websites and stuff. As a comedian, do you find yourself having to write for the next viral video or the viral joke or anything like that? Are you forcing yourself to do that?
Well, Twitter is making that, what you have to do. If you like to tweet, you like to tweet out stuff. If something current event happens and you want to get out there, Twitter's the best way to get it out there fast. Now there's Instagram with pictures and Vine with video. So that market is always there, and if you're a person that likes to interact on social media, then you have to be on the forefront of that. And you have to keep up with the Joneses, as they say.
When they said comedy was dying in the clubs, what do you tell somebody on how to become a survivor in your industry?
Well, it is tough, I will say that, and the comedy clubs themselves are to blame. They're putting us out of business because they only want to book stars. But how do you become a star? You have to build a fan base. How do you build a fan base? It's supposed to be in the club. So that is becoming harder for younger comics to come up and actually get work. So I would tell people that, you have to be on the forefront of technology, whatever's going on out there. There are people that have become famous on YouTube and Twitter, and now there's going to be more videos like that. So, you have to get out there, continue to perform, continue to get your message out, and then hopefully it will translate and more people will want to see you live. That's the only thing I can say for now. And still the conventional way still works too, though.
Do you find yourself wanting to go toward radio or to do anything for Saturday Night Live or anything like that? Because, dude, you're on the edge.
When I was a kid, I used to play my mom's Shirley Bassey records, and I would tape them, and in between the songs, I would talk like I was a radio disc jockey. So I always wanted to do radio, and, we'll see what happens. We'll see where the future takes me.
So what would be your fake radio disc jockey voice?
I always be like, this is K. White. WHIT. And then I would be like, I just used to do that all the time. I was just like, this is your son coming at you live from the living room. At that time, like KRP in Cincinnati was on the air, was on TV. And that was like a thing, that was the thing. And every radio station would have some kind of call letters.
Do other comedians do you guys critique each other? Do you have air check sessions? And do they make you sound like, because we call them Randy Radios when you start grinding your voice?
Well, big comics talk. We're very brutal with each other, too, especially our friends. The closer we are, the more honest we are with each other.
Do you still have those moments where a joke hits you and you make yourself laugh pretty hard?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I still enjoy comedy. Yeah, that's a good question. I do. I still enjoy watching comedy, and I still enjoy, jokes that I make. That I have jokes that I really love, even if other people don't love them. It's something that I love, so I laugh myself.
But how do you practice it and put it up on stage? Do you write it down? How do you personally make sure that it becomes a part of your stand-up?
For me personally, I just do it. I have an idea. I'm on stage for almost an hour.
I could take a couple of minutes to work on something.
What is comedy to you?
That's how we deal with tragedies. We make jokes. That's just how we deal with it. We're not necessarily normal people. So, normal people in society, they feel like, I can't talk about this yet. But that's not how we feel. But laughter is a basic, common response to anything. People laugh at funerals. People laugh at weddings. People laugh because that is just a common response.
People say the damnedest things.
That's what I'm saying. There's comedy all around. It's just we're just like the town crier, relaying the message of what we saw. That's all comedians are, really.
So you don't consider yourself a court jester. I love it. That's classy. Erik Griffin from Comedy Central's Workaholics in Charlotte this week at the Comedy Zone. Grab some tickets. Enjoy the entire night out with Erik Griffin. CLTComedyZone.com. CLTComedyZone.com.